Hello. Thank you everyone for continuing to watch Anime Speedrun Festival. My name is DB Cade. Um, Besides speedrunning a lot, I do quite a bit of research for Anime Speedruns Festival and kind of the main avenues that I speedrun. So if it's fighting games, I'll research a lot for that. If it's beat 'em ups, I'll research a lot for that. And so what started 4 years ago as doing research just for what series have games has kind of spread out into the consoles themselves. And so what I wanted to talk about today, and I don't have this console. I'm going to start by saying that. And there's a reason why I don't have this console, and it's the Sony MSX. The MSX stands for whatever you want it to be. People think it's like mixed multimedia, or I forget what the other. I wrote it down. There's another word that it stands for, but yeah, you can basically Matsushita, but actually it's just a cool name. Like Sony thought it was a cool name. They decided to go with that. And in researching for this console, which came out in 1983, so it's a long time ago, and there's not enough information that's been kept up for it. There's lots of lost articles and misinformation, and we do have archives in Japan that historians can access, but even that didn't have manuals and other things like that. So I'm not going to be able to talk about every single anime or anime doujin game that was released for the MSX, because the truth is we don't know the full scope of what was released for this console. Game cataloging just wasn't that good then. And by the way, I'm going to end this talk with actually speedrunning, because that's the most fun, right? When you find a game that you can actually run. And so my hope from this discussion is that someone watching this out there says, "Ooh, I want to play that game. I really, that game looks cool. I think I could do that." DBK, he'd be terrible at that. Let me pick up the torch, because I kind of picked the two that I had the most fun with, and that I felt I could clear. But there was a ton, and I'll preface it by saying this. So the Sony MSX, it didn't start out quite as an anime. It doesn't really have that many anime games. It started off as kind of the OG retro. A lot of the games that came out for the MSX also came out for the Sharp X1, or they came out for, maybe Sega's previous old, console before that. There's also the PC 88 and 98 have a lot of the same games that the Sony MSX does, but the versions are a little bit different. But later on in the console life, and this was kind of one of the first times, you saw developers really make a good living out of having the fortune to make licensed anime games for it. And this is MSX is kind of the birth of that. To me, when I was reading up on it and researching it, kind of seemed like one of the birthing grounds for that. And later on, then it gets into the, maybe when the console, the system isn't doing that well, that's when you kind of see the risque, maybe the naughty games come out. That's usually like Japan's life cycle. It's like retro games, original games, anime games, H games, and then the console disappears. And so you kind of see this like wave and so the MSX kind of repeats this console wave. And it was kind of the first one that I realized. I'm reading this and I'm like, oh, there's a pattern here. And the anime games for it are actually pretty involved for the most part. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the first one here. So this is Sento Mecha Zabongo. This is not the simple series game that I've run before. This is a strategy game, very kind of crude in its nature, but actually a little bit more complicated than Army Wars or what's the current title? You know, one of those other RTS games. We'll only show off this. So beautiful cover, by the way, here. Absolutely gorgeous. This was released in 1984, so this was very early on in the console's lifespan. And you see, this is a cassette tape, right? You're not confused. This is actually a cassette tape for the console. And so one of the reasons why, and I said I would get to this, that I don't have a desire right now to collect for this console, is that there are many versions of the MSX console. There's the MSX2, there's like a floppy disk version, there's this cassette version. And when you say the MSX, you're not actually just, it doesn't mean if you get one of these carts, if you were shopping in the wild and you happen to stumble upon one, the conditions usually aren't that great, and two, it might not work on the console version that you have. This is also the one I want to talk about, the MSX versions. Even getting emulation and other things to work for the system has been a huge struggle. I've had to get outside help, figure out how, the ins and outs and how to load things. It has not been easy, and anything that is over 2 floppy disks or more than has like more than an A and B cassette, I'm just out of luck. I don't know what to do. It might not even be possible, but absolutely, this one's like one of the nicest looking cassette cards I've seen, and I'll just show off the style here. Yes, so a lot of the games on the MSX do have loops. So if like you beat it, but this is one that I wasn't sure, because when I tried to play it, the AI was actually pretty smart and I couldn't figure out what I was doing. I tried this game and I had no idea. IG, Gawa, Ido, so you can move. I got that Hex, Jokai, and then Yukis has a mountain for Yama. The green is the Mori, and you basically move and you can see the units, so you can kind of get a idea of what's going on. But this is a pretty early strategy anime game. Might be one of the first, right? It was a very nice game. Like it ran smoothly, but strategy games, unless it's an RTS like StarCraft or Warcraft, or Dune or one of those, I'm at a loss already. But you can tell it's even got like its own kind of compass and things like that. Very cool game. So this was like one of the first ones I checked out, and Zabungo is also a very underrated anime series on its own. Classic 80s anime style. All of those games seem to have a lot of flavor, and the show did too. All right, so which one should I'll hop to next? Gull Force. So Gull Force was an interesting one. I guess the part of my research that was confusing to me is, I think I could be wrong, but there may have been unreleased carts to this game and to its so this one is a Gull Force, Defender of Chaos. Really awesome art. Again, this was kind of an OVA that came out around the same time. This game was 1986. I actually recommend this game. We saw a lot of great shmup runs, and we've got more TASes and shmup runs in the marathon. So if you're a shmup fan, this one's probably for you. This game does, like all the MSX games do tend to loop, but this one seemed to have a bit longer of a loop, and I kind of found myself faltering a little bit. wasn't necessarily easy, but I think if you're a shooter, a vertical shooter fan, then this is up your alley. Again, kind of we were already switching right to different cards. So this is like a 60, a 16K card that was released for the system. So it's completely different from what we just looked at, right? So we're already changing technologies in between. These actually, this is the official card. This is what it looks like. So really easy to mistake when you're out in the wild. You don't know what you're looking at most of the time. A lot of the cards you do find, these stickers have been scratched off. So, part of me doing this too is like, if, for some reason you came across this and you can remember the shape of the cart, it's worth it just to buy and see if you can find out what's on there. A lot of these go for junk because people will sell them on like Yahoo Auction, other sites, and they're just they don't know what's on the cart and they don't have a way to check either. And yeah, as you can see here, it's like a fairly simple shooting game, but it actually was a lot of fun. Again, highly recommend this. And there was another Golf Force game as well. So the other Golf Force game, this was Eternal Story. And I guess this was supposed to have DLC. This one's actually a story game. We tend not to, just as far as Anime Speedruns Festival, always have story games or really allow story games in the marathon. And you can see here, 1987, we're on floppy again. If you're confused by this, don't worry. I'm already confused, but this is 64K. So by this time the technology had already changed. And I guess the interesting thing about the MSX is they had changed technology all along with the time. There was no gap necessarily. And so again, we've had basically what's the size of a Sega Saturn cart. We had the cassette, and now we're on floppy disk. These are one thing about these games. This kind of explanation I'm doing. If I'm missing information, that I consider that a good thing. You should definitely message me, let me know more about it. But on Generation MSX and other sites, they like, for example, the DLC for this game, or I say download contents, the scheduled I guess extra disc for floppy disk for this game was called Beyond the Rainbow. So that was going to be the future contents for this game. I guess by that time the publisher had already moved on to other things. This one was done by, I want to say PSG, yeah, which was a bigger one, a name that tends to come up often on the MSX charts. You can see here, it's just a typical, story gameplay. You'll go through a story, you'll choose if you want to talk, look, move, or you can look at your items. And yeah, I messed around with it. It was a lot of fun, but this is I think this is just one if rainy day outside, you want to just, you're a Golf Force fan, or you want to explore some older anime. This is a nice official one that you can look at. There's a lot of non-official stuff around this time, or kind of like knockoff releases that were going on. I'm not going to really talk about all those, especially because they tend to run until 18 plus category. Like, they're not really for younger content. And even this game, it kind of has some like, nowadays it's very tame, but at that time I guess it was kind of quote unquote naughty because they're coming out of bed and things like that. Just really a place and time for these games. But I think that's what I love so much about it. Kinnikuman, by the way, this game is actually on speedrun.com. High School Kinnikuman is, I highly recommend it. One of my favorite retro Sega speedruns. You walk into a classroom and you have to basically, like, there's a bunch of delinquents and you gotta basically tie one of them up to get the presents, and kind of keep the peace of the school. It's a great game, classic, nostalgic anime. And this was 1987, so even though it was 1987, they decided to release back on the cassettes. This one's a little bit more distinguishable. There seems to be, from what I understood, no color coding regulation, no cart size. Well, obviously, it has to fit into the system, but some of the carts seem to be like a little bit shaped differently. So I think this was before the time when companies really tried to say, okay, you have to conform to a uniform design. And I wonder, another question I have some answers, but I have more questions. I wonder if it's because of the MSX that you began to see uniform design, because this and the Nintendo kind of have that. Box sizes all the way off. This also, like the MSX boxes, sometimes they're these beautiful cards, other times they're sleeves. There doesn't seem to be any kind of code that Sony said you had to adhere to release for the system. Yeah, someone wants to drop a link to it, you can in chat. Highly recommend checking out this. All right, this one is called Fireboard, or Hinotori. Hinotori is a pretty well-known anime. There's actually like other releases of Hinotori. I'm not 100% sure what the difference is for this version. It's kind of the Metal Gear like top-down style, but it seems to focus a little bit more on shmups. Again, beautiful, absolutely gorgeous box art, and the sound in this game too. By this time, Konami had already made a name for itself with sound and design, and they didn't shy away from that on systems. So, a kind of an A+ game right here. And look at the card too. You can check the quality of the card has already improved tremendously. And this is also 1987, by the way. A top-down style. Wadao Salesman. This is an anime I actually really like. I like Wadao Salesman. It's kind of a horror, like really, basically people are led on by temptation, and what they think is like a good thing, ends up, doubly hurting them in the end. And the Wadao Salesman is he's almost kind of like the devil in a sense. Like he's leading them toward temptation, and really it's their own fault. So all he does is laugh in their face. The game itself is like a story game. It came on 2 discs. This one also had some kind of strange information. There was Wadao Salesman 2, apparently that was going to be released. There's actually like, I think it's like a press sheet out there somewhere. So it was official. Wadao Salesman actually had other releases out there. There's probably like 3 or 4 games in the series, all story games, but I'm gonna put my seal of recommendation on it just because all the stories are really good, really amazing writing from Wadao Salesman. And yeah, we're back to floppy disk. Do you want to guess what year this was? This was 1991 at this point. So this one was actually quite a bit on. So by this point, most of what's released on MSX has changed over. And you can see here it's kind of a talking game, so it's zoomed in a little bit too much, but this game does a really good job of capturing the anime, which I highly recommend. you know, here at Anime Speedrun Festival, we're also trying to introduce you some anime. Like I said, it's always that crossover, right? All right, the Lupin games. Lupin the Third. So this one is the Golden Legend of Babylon, 1988. This is actually, I want to say this is also on speedrun.com. I'm pretty sure that Orange San is the moderator for the game. If not, I know for a fact there's a task of this game as well. This is probably more well known on the MSX, I would say, of the anime games. Lupin the Third kind of hit its stride. There was also arcade Lupin the Third games. Just a great, you know, and most of the screens are also from like movies themselves. So I'm not going to do a whole box art review. I have that on my channel. We're slowly doing each thing. However, I do appreciate how clean the design is. And you can see here it's 1988. This one they chose cassette, but it's actually a pretty nice cassette. Like that cover. And yeah, it's a platformer type of game. Again, if you like platformers, this one is up there. It's actually considered a pretty darn good game. All right, and then we have the other game, Castle of Cagliostro. Cagliostro Castle is probably one of the more well-known movies of the series. This one's also a platformer, but it has a little bit less freedom in it, and you have to deal with items, and you have an actual like life meter and a bunch of like item management that you have to do. Again, they went back to the classic cart. Let's see here some of the design. All right, let's move on to Macross. This is Macross Countdown. Again, absolutely love this cover. You're going to see the name. I don't know if it can show up on screen, but Bothtech actually seemed to be one of the other big anime game publishers for the system. This game, I tried. This is one of the other ones I really tried to sit down and play through. It's just difficult. There's a lot of moving parts on the screen. I really wish that there was some way to get the manuals, because these are games that without the manual, it's kind of hard to figure out what the goal is a lot of the time. This is from the era of games where you had to read the manual a lot of the time. There might be a special key. Most of the time, a lot of these games are 1 or sometimes 2 button. But even just figuring out what the goals are and what things do, the game, I would say 99% of the games for the MSX don't give you any introduction, don't explain anything. They let you off and you have to figure out what you're doing from start to finish. And so without the manual, there's not much you can do. And so for this one, this is one of the ones where I didn't understand what the real goal is with the game, so I couldn't really even run it, let alone play it well. And again, they've kind of gone with the Bothtech labels. I don't know what this is. Not Bothtech's not the only one to do this, but this seems to be the most common kind of label. Really hard to miss, right? The name is only on the top, and then the company name is on the side. So it doesn't even look great on a shelf, right? If you're trying to collect cards. Fantastic pixel art, though. And again, that's something extra. You know, we had a lot of Macross come to the marathon today for ASF 2025. So more to get hype over. I see Meiji-san in the chat and some other people so who are fans. Take notes, run the game. That's the point of this. Okay. This is a game that I've actually had my eye on for. Wasn't trying to make a joke there, but the Mitsume ga Toru. So Mitsume ga Toru is another, very well-known anime in Japan. Outside of Japan, I'm not sure how popular this series is, but maybe you noticed something about this cover. This is Natsume. Natsume is a fantastic and legendary game maker here in Japan, and this one also is quality work. This is a rather large game, and it's also one of the few that don't loop. I know people were making comments before about the games having loops, but there are a couple games that actually have clear-cut endings, and this is one of them. I want to say this is on speedrun.com, but I'm not 100% certain. It's a game that I wish there was more of. Unfortunately, like, Mitsume ga Toru is a rather hard series to have access to, not just in the games realm, but in the manga realm. I've tried to I wanted to read this series and I just couldn't get it. Which is similar to what happened with Dr. Slump, right? Where I couldn't get into that series because it's so hard to find a complete set altogether. And so that's a very unfortunate thing about this. Cartel, I love the cart, by the way. I don't know why I love this design so much. I just like this character, just the way everything looks. There's a lot of detail in this game, a lot of detail. It's not only do you go around the town, there's dungeon areas. There's just, I could probably make a whole separate video just about this one game, but I'm gonna let someone else do that. This is kind of just an introduction, because when I was pitching to the team about ideas about which console should I come up with, I landed on MSX because of how little information there was, and people would just say, MSX, huh? And they shrugged their shoulders like, I don't know what you're saying right now. All right, this is a Nausicaa game. This game, First off, I really love Nausicaa, right? I think it's fantastic. However, the game itself is also one that I really wanted a manual for, or maybe an extra explanation on YouTube. There are some other YouTube videos explaining it out there. You're supposed to land on a certain space. It's kind of like an infinite. You can infinitely scroll this game because you have fuel, but you're actually supposed to land on, I guess, some of the monsters or things like that. But you can move pretty fast through this game. There seems to be a lot more qualified gamers out there to talk about this particular game. I just couldn't figure out the controls. Again, it's one of those things, I didn't have the manual. The game doesn't tell you. But I figured out how to fly and kind of glide, and you can loop back. But it's not an easy game to control. Once you pick up momentum, it's really easy to crash. So I found myself having this weird time. Okay, I understand. Once I finally understood where the goal is, I couldn't even get there in time. Best picture of the cart there. I probably could have done a better one. But yeah, it's just, again, the name's only on the top. Ranma 1/2. This is Hiryu Densetsu. So this one is a story game as well, where you'll go through and choose options. I'm not sure. I want to say it's actually not the earliest Ranma game. This was 1992. So of course they switched to floppy, which was this. So unfortunately, getting your hands on a complete set of all the floppies might take some time. It seems to be a rather long game, and this one has a finite ending as well. And again, that Both Tech company's out there again. Really clean visuals though, and I've seen the art from this game be used in other places even after it. So I think even, if you were to compare this to Flash games and other things that came out afterwards, this still is vastly superior. Kinnikuman. I'm going to be running this game today, actually. The Colosseum Deathmatch. It took me a while to get it running and find a right version, but this was a fighting game, and so this kind of falls into my category of something. Oh, I have a little confidence. Maybe I can figure out this. A lot of the Kinnikuman games are really great, and this one is no exception. It's a lot of fun. Infinite loops. Love the design. This is right in the height of all the kind of, the muscle man craze. Like they had erasers and they had board games and all sorts of things you could buy for Kinnikuman. So I think a lot of quality was put into this Bandai release. And this one was 1985 actually, so much earlier on in the cycle. And the last ones I'm going to talk about today is, the first one is not the Gundam game I'm going to be running. This is MS Field. So MS Field Gundam is, first off, beautiful. This picture that I'm showing right here does not do it justice. Probably one of the best looking box arts I've seen in the whole Gundam series. This is one that I would hang on my wall. And just in general, this is a game I wanted to learn this game for the marathon. Again, I'm looking for a manual, because without the manual, I don't really know what I'm doing. It does run on 2 floppies. Family soft. And it's kind of like a RTS, like survival type of game. It seems to be, it felt way more in depth than some of the other games I put on this list. So yeah, this game was, I want to say it was 1990. So the game that I'll be running today is the very first Gundam game. I don't know if it's the very first Gundam game ever, but it's pretty early on, and this is 1984, so just a little bit after the console release. Mobile Suit Gundam, fantastic. Again, really cool art. OG Gundam is one of my. I have a lot of bias toward that. And this is also, if you notice something interesting there, Bandai Soft, this might have been one of the only, there's a whole, probably the amount of games that say Bandai Soft can fit on my fingers and toes. So again, same kind of cart as the Kinnikuman one. And oddly enough, both of these games ran a lot easier on the system. So why did I show you all these games? Again, if you're just joining in, this is basically free information for speedrunners, for collectors, for gamers. it doesn't do any good in this situation if this information isn't put out there. It helps absolutely nobody. And the exact opposite will happen, where we can kind of catalog things. And anime speedruns, the Discord, and the research I've done has kind of been actually become one of the largest compendiums and just logs of all this information, not just for speedruns, but just making sure that we know what the games are released, and we know what titles there, and if what the packages look like and things like that. So if you have information, again, or you want to gather it, definitely join our community, post about it. Not just myself, there's other members of the community that love this. And if you're looking at this and you're like, ooh, I'm gonna speed run this, or I'm gonna do a high score tech, good. That's what I want you to do. That's what I want people to walk away from this being excited to run one of these games, even if it's something that I'm running today. And we can work together in the community to help you do that. And the only reason I can't talk about, there's other guides out there, like, so a lot of my sources, for example, I use the MSX perfect catalog, which is not perfect, right? There's missing images, there's duplicate entries, and this is an official publication. There's also another MSX website that I'm trying to say, I mentioned MSX Generations as my resource. But yeah, for the most part, like, even I couldn't use MSX, I couldn't use like msx.org or the Wikipedia page, because those two are missing information. So it's actually some of the information I've talked here can probably help fill out the information on those sites. So if you work on those sites, if you want to, you're free to use any information. You don't need to ask my permission. That's not the job of, the historian, right? I'm simply trying to make sure it gets talked about. And that might be outside of a few other anime games, I might have missed like 5 or 6. That's the majority of it right there. This can kind of, I might, if people really like this one, I can come back and do an MSX part 2, but next time I think I want to talk about another console. And I'm careful about which ones I talk about, because in this case, purchasing these as a collector and running these is not really feasible for me personally. And the funny thing is, there's another member of community, ND-san, and ND-san and I, we're cataloging another system, and we found out recently that we're buying things for a certain system that has a lot of anime games, and we realize it's just us two that have been sniping each other on other sites. And so because of that, we had a good laugh, and I realized maybe I shouldn't talk about that console right now. Maybe I'll talk about this one, because without the help of the community and everyone, there's not much I can do. But anyway, let's get to some speedruns. I hope that was enjoyable. I hope you learned some sort of information. Maybe you made a list of the games you want to run, or you discovered that the anime games are a lot older than you realize, and this has been going on for a very, very long time. So I'm going to go ahead and get switched up here. Shout outs to Shrimp Brain Son, who's probably going to set me up, and I'm going to open up the game on my end. But yeah, thank you very much for tuning in to this. If anyone has any questions, you can ask them now. Laugh out loud, don't outbid each other. No, the funny thing is we don't, but we literally didn't know. And Andy-san is a member of Anime Speedrun staff, so we just had a really big laugh, because it's like, wait, you bought that? And he's like, yep. But that's good, because then it's in the community, right? It's that. It was like a sigh of relief where I said, oh, Okay, someone good got it, right? Because the worst thing is when somebody buys it and then just hogs it and doesn't want to open it, doesn't want to scan it, and then that information just gets lost to time. And that's kind of what's destroyed the, in my opinion, the game collecting, and the prices don't equal because the next generation doesn't know what they're looking at. So yeah, we can bring each other, we can bring the games, and we bought them to Speedrun, so it's no issue there. We'll definitely do a Speedrun exchange. Yeah, if there's any other questions, let me know. I'm gonna go ahead and load the first game. I think the first game on the schedule was Kinnikuman. Yep. By the way, these games are MSX games are a little bit hard, so the crudeness of them is not lost on me, and I'll talk about that during the run as well. Oop, I have to reboot. Okay, looks like it's loading. Shrimpson, how we doing? Yep. You don't even have to take me off live. You can just switch me right away. And then I guess I can stop sharing my camera, right? So I can have my camera on there. Just throw me on. All right. Quick break there while I set up the scene. So this is Kinnikuman Death Colosseum. So there's some like minor issues with visuals, but for the most part the game runs fine, and that's basically just with the text. The biggest issue I've had with running the MSX is actually just been getting the text to run. Yeah, if you're watching on the Japanese restream and you happen to know how to get me to get to fix that, I can run a lot more games, but until then, it's been a little bit difficult. So Kinnikuman, before I start, is another thing about the MSX is the control scheme in it. For some reason, and I've played on the actual physical versions to confirm this, with most games, you've really got to slam on the button to get a controller response.
It is not my favorite controller, and it tends to be finicky. And this game emulated it very well, where I'm mashing because if you don't hit it in the right frame, then the move just won't come out. So let's go ahead and start Kinnikuman. All right, timer's going to start on 3, 2, 1, go. Timer. So there's mainly one button in this game, and I'm going to be, if I do standing neutral, that's punch. I can also press down and punch to grab an enemy. I can do crouching punch, which basically hits absolutely nothing in this game. Oh, we do not want to get slammed. We can press down, and then we can press punch one more time to throw. What we really want to do is be able to catch our opponent in the air as they're jumping away, do a pile driver. But you can also do a diving kick by doing a perfect dive in the air, and then at the maximum height, you'll press up and punch again, and you can do diving kick. You can do a body slam against the wall, which gives you extended reach, and you can do it pressing down and punch will give you reach. So this fight here, we have to be careful because we can actually get infinited by this enemy. He throws out these whirlwinds, and the whirlwinds actually can combo into each other. So if this boss feels like it, we can get caught over and over by the same whirlwind, especially if the hitbox is right on top of us. If we start doing really bad in the match, a item will come out that will allow us to do a super move. However, I found out earlier today that that can actually be countered. That was just standing punch. We're on the last fight already. Yes, I had to practice for this one. If I press up, forward, and then jump at the maximum height, that's how I can do the slam. I have to be careful because this boss can also infinite if he feels like using the bull charge. Oh, wow, we got hit back. In this fight, yeah, we want to try and bait out a throw. There we got OTG. Dodge the shark attack. You can kind of see it, and yeah, this fight can be scary because as you see there, he went right into the special again. There's the dive kick. Alright. I can grab this. Uh-oh. We're in an awkward spot in the wall. I can't get a grab. Okay, that's not good. We need to do way more damage than that. One more throw. Oh, did we get the super? Yes, we did. GG, that's time stop right there. Thank you very much. Whew, it's getting a little bit nervous there. I got some bad luck. So this game would infinitely loop. You can obviously try and go for, and basically what happens is the enemy just gets harder and harder as you go on, or seemingly so. Sometimes they don't feel as much, but they take less damage from your moves. And that is Kinnikuman, done here live at ASF 2025. Yeah, sometimes the game can cooperate on throws and you can get really smooth loops like this, but other times it just doesn't work. And like, let's say if I were to get hit, that does 1/3 of my life. So let's say if I just stay here, it's you can only get hit 3 times. Most of the time in this game, if you don't recover or move fast enough, you'll just get washed instantly in this game. So part of it's kind of remembering the enemy's patterns. But yeah, that was Kinnikuman. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm gonna go ahead and just switch right into the next game. just the game in general is just very unfair and unforgiving, and the game, it's basically 2 games in one for last shooting. I did body game that was pretty fast, actually. That was pretty good. All right, so the first section here is like dodging these, and you basically, the goal in this game is to get a certain amount of points, and then you can clear the stage. So the first one, if we want to jump off of white base, we have to have 500 points, and then we can go to the next section. So we go ahead and just check if everything was loaded up. Yeah, this. So last Gundam also only uses just up, down, left, right, and one button. And the second stage, I guess I'll explain when I get there. But there's going to be a lot of side-scrolling and manipulating the way the game loads enemies. This one, not so much. It's just kind of skill on white base. If you make too many mistakes, you unfortunately pay the price. But 30 minutes was actually a fair estimate because it took me. I had a run that was quite a long one. All right, so time is going to start once I hit this one player. So we'll begin on. I know, jumping on. No, now we're jumping off. All right, 3, 2, 1. Oh, it's not letting me. All right, we'll try that again. 3, 2, 1, go. It having that same issue with earlier in the marathon with Hyper Area, where the game just kind of starts. I'm gonna try and hang around the middle here because the mobile suit's going to open up from the center. Right there. Perfect. That was near perfect timing. So we got the perfect 500 points, and now we're going to go on to the second stage. Oh yes, flashing lights, I guess. This game has like a lot of weird flashes. Alright, so this one, the left side is my actual gauge. Don't get hit. And the right side of the red gauge is my gas or fire. Like, if you fire a lot in this game, basically you will lose if you get to 0. So you constantly have to shoot those like little red tanks and fill up your ammunition, aka gas. And if I miss too much, I'm gonna scroll out of the way to avoid trouble, because again, we're trying to get a certain amount of points here. Now, scrolling left and right is okay, but it can cause issues for what comes on the screen, so I'm going to be a little bit careful, as you saw there. Something got clipped out. Oh no! Not perfect. But that's what happens. Sometimes I don't know what happened there. Maybe I ran out of ammo? I'm not sure. Scroll this off. Made it. Okay. Oh, I ran out of gas. That's what it was. Okay. And that's why I have a 30-minute estimate. Okay. I didn't pay attention to the right side. Yeah, it's really, really easier said than done. And once I get to a certain amount of points, the final base will appear, and you can actually shoot it. All right, so we're gonna play extra safe now. As our first stage. So this is pretty normal. Usually what happens is I'll end up in these stages and I just won't have enough I'll run out of energy, or I won't come across energy. And the scary part is right when you I'm not gonna get to defeat that. Okay, that's some damage, that's alright. A good spot, right? Because we can see the canister, so maybe we can get one of them to spawn. Oh, we got to get off the screen before it falls down. You've probably already noticed the arc of the move already. I mentioned this is like, you know, it's funny. I last weekend I did another shooting game. I did Space Cobra arcade. So I feel like that was prep for this. All right, we need to get more red tanks, or we're gonna be in trouble. Nope, not about to fight it. That one sped up at the end there. Nope, 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 nope. No, thank you. Give me some gas. Some gas. All right, if you're thinking the same thing, why is this so hard? Then I have no explanation as to why. This is how some of these games were. Oh, I'm gonna take the hit. Yeah. I need the gas. I need the gas. Oh, I'm getting extremely lucky with the gas. Nice. I'm actually sweating right now. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, it was turning red at the end there. That's how you know it's coming for you. Nope. It's not happening. Maybe I can get you, though. Yeah. I destroyed one of the bullets. Yeah, see, they come out so fast. So if my reaction's not good enough. Sometimes it's frame 1 on the screen. Oh, that's a miss. We need to get the gas. What? Okay. I swore I shot it. Okay. You'll know when the final boss comes. It's going to appear in the middle of the screen. That bullet was on. You have to be really careful. I have to focus because you can see that the bullets sometimes they'll appear like off screen. Oh, that did way too much damage. Okay. Nope. No, thank you. All right, we got full. Nope. Nope, nope. That might hit. Don't do it. Oh my gosh, we have one more life. Okay, okay. Wait. Oh. It's not enough points yet. Oh no. Can I get out in time? Don't turn red and blow? Okay. Chat, I need your energy. There we go. Okay. Maybe one more? No? Alright. This is not good. Don't do it. Okay, we need to escape. This is really not a good situation. 8,000 though. A lot of points. I gotta scroll the screen. I literally have to. Oh no, that's not good. Am I gonna make it in time? I swear the bullets get faster sometimes. No! Okay. We're going. We're getting... Oh, maybe I can get you. No! Oh, I see. I guess it shot out a rocket, and, One game. Alright, am I gonna make it in time? That one's going really fast. This is not a good situation. Okay, I don't mind this spot. Yes! Yes! Okay. We're here. This is the final spot. We gotta scroll. We gotta scroll. Oh, I need gas. That's what we need. We need a gas canister. And we can't miss. We definitely can't miss. We are at the final section, but we do not have gas to shoot, and we can't have any bullets hit us, or we game over. Yes! GG! Okay. All right. That is time. We did it. As you can see there. So, yeah, the old MSX library. If you want a good retro challenge, highly recommend it. There's no cheat codes. There's nothing to help you. You just gotta kind of learn how to beat the game, and you know, even the awkwardness of the game sometimes can prove difficult. We got through it. I'd like to learn more games, but more importantly, I hope that maybe someone out there is inspired to try some of the MSX, the Sharp 1, PC88 library that's out there. There's definitely like a lot of games that haven't been run, and it'd be really nice if the anime community can kind of step up and run some of those. Definitely worth it. And even if you might sweat over a game for a little bit, it's fun. That's been it for me, though. I'm glad we did things well under estimate, and I was able to talk about the majority of the games that I found for the console, and show just kind of like a little taste. If you want more, just let me know in the comments when the video comes out, and be sure to come into our Discord and let us know how bad my last shooting was, on that last section there. Anyway, that's been it. I've been DBK'd. Thank you to everyone in the staff for making sure this got tech checked smoothly. Mash-san, Shrimp-san, everyone. And, yeah. Talk to you again later.